The tension in the conference room of the ESV_Audacity_ was broken only by the sound of human laughter. Captain Maya Chen tried to compose herself, pressing her palm against her mouth, but the sight of the affronted Galactic Council representatives only triggered another wave of mirth from her crew. "I fail to understand the source of your amusement," said the tallest alien, who had introduced himself as High Counselor Zixtoral of the Supremacy. His translucent skin pulsed with blue light patterns that the ship's cultural matrix identified as indicators of confusion and displeasure. Commander Lai, the _Audacity's _tactical officer, finally managed to speak. "With respect, Counselor, you've just traveled across 17 light-years to inform us that we need your permission to do what we're already doing." "That is the natural order," another council member interjected, her feathered crest rising with indignation. "All species require guidance to navigate the complexities of interstellar civilization." Captain Chen straightened her uniform jacket, still smiling. "Perhaps you misunderstand our position. Earth didn't send us to apply for membership in your council. We're explorers, scientists, and diplomats on a mission of discovery." The council members exchanged glances, their bewilderment evident even across species barriers. The ship's linguist, Dr. Patel, leaned forward with fascination, watching the subtle communication signals passing between the aliens. "Captain," Dr. Patel whispered, "I don't think they've ever encountered this situation before." Chen nodded slightly, then addressed the delegation again. "We welcome peaceful contact with your council and all its member species. We're eager to learn about your cultures and histories. But Earth doesn't seek permission or probationary status." The conference room's holographic display activated, showing the _Audacity's journey from Earth. The elegant ship, with its distinctive 3-ring propulsion system, had navigated through 7 star systems before encountering the Council's monitoring outpost near HD 87,883. "Your vessel utilizes impossible technology," stated a small crystalline being from the back of the delegation. "Our records indicate no species has independently developed dimensional folding capabilities without guidance." Chief Engineer Torres couldn't contain himself. "Impossible. You're standing next to it." He gestured to the wall displaying the engine schematics. "The Klein-Hoffman drive is the result of 30 years of human theoretical physics and engineering. We'd be happy to discuss the principles with your scientists." 30 years. The crystalline being's structure clouded momentarily. "That development timeline is problematic." Captain Chen's smile faded slightly as she studied the delegates more carefully. Their reactions weren't just surprised, they were deeply unsettled. "How many species are members of your council?" she asked. 47 civilizations currently enjoy the benefits of council guidance, Zixtoral replied, his composure returning. "Each has been carefully cultivated to ensure proper development." "Cultivated," repeated Dr. Okafor, the xenobiologist, her voice suddenly cool. An interesting choice of words. The ship's sensors detected increased energy signatures from the council vessel, maintaining position 5 kilometers off the _Audacity's starboard bow. Lieutenant Park, monitoring security from the bridge, sent a discreet notification to the captain's neural link. Chen's expression remained pleasant, but she subtly signaled her crew to heightened awareness. First contacts were always delicate moments, and something about this one felt increasingly off balance. "Perhaps we should continue this discussion over a meal," she suggested, deploying humanity's most ancient diplomatic tool. "We could learn more about your council, and you could tell us about these 47 cultivated civilizations." "We do not require nutritional intake at this interval," Zixtoral responded stiffly. "It's not about nutritional intake, Counselor," Chen said with a genuine smile. "It's about connection. On Earth, we build relationships by breaking bread together." "Breaking bread?" repeated the feathered counselor, looking horrified. And just like that, the humans were laughing again. The council representatives retreated to their vessel with what Chief Engineer Rodrigo Torres described as the walk of someone who sat on something uncomfortable. The crew of the Audacity gathered in the observation lounge, watching the elegant, spiral-shaped alien ship maintain its cautious distance. They're completely thrown off script, Dr. Paddle said, analyzing the linguistic data from their encounter. Their communication patterns suggest they've never had a first contact go off protocol before. Captain Chen sipped her coffee thoughtfully. I'm more concerned with what they meant by cultivated civilizations. That doesn't sound like equal diplomatic relations. The ship's communication system chimed. Captain, they're requesting to return with additional specialists. Lieutenant Raman reported from the bridge. Let's welcome them properly this time, Chen decided. No laughter, even if they say something ridiculous. 3 hours later, the expanded council delegation materialized again, now including what they called xenological behavior analysts. The new additions wore elaborate sensory devices and openly recorded the humans' every movement. Torres, assigned as their guide, led them through the ship's public areas. This is our hydroponics bay, he explained, showing them rows of thriving plants. We grow about 30% of our fresh food on board. A 6-limbed analyst touched a tomato plant with a scanning device. You maintain connection to your planet's biological systems during space travel. Fascinating primitive adaptation. Torres bit his lip to maintain composure. We find plants make good companions on long journeys. Would you like to taste a strawberry? The analysts conferred in hushed tones before one cautiously accepted the small red fruit. The bean's eyes widened as it dissolved on their tongue analog. You cultivate pleasure-giving substances for consumption during missions, they asked, clearly surprised. We call it dessert, Torres replied with a straight face. Wait until you try ice cream. The tour continued to engineering, where the council scientists became increasingly agitated examining the Klein-Hoffman drive. Their scanning devices were pointed at every component, and rapid communications flashed between them. This configuration bypasses conventional space-folding limitations, one stated flatly. Which patron species provided this technology template? Torres frowned. Nobody provided anything. The drive is based on Dr. Klein's theoretical work from the 2080s, and the Hoffman engineering team built the first prototype in 2132. Implausible, the scientist replied. No species develops such technology independently in a single lifetime. Torres crossed his arms. That's exactly what humans do. We solve problems, often too quickly for our own good. The delegation insisted on scanning the engineers themselves next, as if looking for hidden alien influence. When they reached the mess hall, Torres offered them coffee and his mother's snickerdoodle cookies, fresh from the molecular baker. These are cultural artifacts, he explained as the aliens cautiously examined the cookies. My family has passed this recipe down for generations. You maintain ancestral food rituals during space exploration, a feathered analyst asked, clearly confused. What is the evolutionary advantage? Torres smiled. It tastes like home. The concept seemed to baffle them entirely. One brave analyst finally bit into a cookie, and the sensory response was so overwhelming that their recording device dropped to the floor. Later, as the delegation prepared to depart, their lead scientist approached Captain Chen privately. Your species explores without territorial objectives, she stated, mandibles clicking with confusion. You maintain biological connections to your homeworld. You develop technology through conceptual leaps rather than incremental guidance. That's humanity in a nutshell, Chen agreed. Is that unusual? It is. The scientist paused, searching for the right word. Unprecedented. The Vruk's primacy will find this highly problematic. Why would our independence concern them? Chen asked carefully. The scientist's compound eyes darted nervously. The natural order requires that developing species follow established patterns. Your humanity does not follow any recognizable pattern. As the delegation dematerialized, Commander Lai moved to Chen's side. Did that sound like a warning to you, Captain? Chen nodded slowly. I believe it was. And I'm beginning to think our laughter might have been the most dangerous first contact response in galactic history. Dr. Amara Okafor stared at her lab display in disbelief. The comparative genetic analysis of 3 council species showed unmistakable signs of artificial manipulation, precise modifications too uniform to be natural evolution. "Computer, run verification sequence," she requested, needing to be certain before bringing this to Captain Chen. Analysis confirmed, the ship's system responded. Genetic markers indicate deliberate engineering consistent across all sampled council species. 99.7% probability of common source intervention. Amara leaned back in her chair, the implications settling over her like a heavy blanket. The Council wasn't just a political alliance, it was a carefully managed biological project. She was about to contact the captain when her lab door chimed. A Nayari scientist named Trelvox entered, one of the Council's biologists who had requested to observe human research methods. "Dr. Okafor, I hope I am not interrupting your work," Trelvox said, his translucent appendages shifting nervously. "Not at all," Amara replied, subtly darkening her display screen. "What can I help you with?" The alien hesitated. "I have questions that my superiors would not approve. About human development." Something in his tone made Amara pause. "What kind of questions?" "Your historical database shows your species developed unevenly. Some regions advanced while others remained primitive. Some pursued space technology, while others focused on biological science." His 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of confusion she'd learned to recognize. "This is not the appropriate path." "Appropriate according to whom?" Amara asked carefully. "The Vruk's primacy provides developmental templates for all sentient species. They have done so for 12 millennia." He moved closer, lowering his voice. "Yet you achieved space travel without templates." Amara maintained a neutral expression. "Humans have always developed technologies in our own way, at our own pace." "Impossible," Trelvox insisted. "Witness the other 47 council species. All followed necessary guidance to prevent technological catastrophe." "Guidance or control?" Amara asked pointedly. The alien scientist's skin pulsed with anxiety patterns. "I should not be speaking of this, but your genetic structure, it shows no signs of the stabilizing modifications." "What modifications?" He gestured to her computer. "You have already discovered them, have you not? The common markers across council species. They are called developmental safeguards." Amara's heart raced. "Who placed these safeguards?" "The Vruks, of course. All developing species receive them once reaching technological adolescence." His appendages twisted together. "They prevent dangerous innovations and ensure compliance with galactic standards." "You mean they limit independent thought?" Amara said, her voice hardening. "They ensure stability," Trelvox corrected, but his skin pattern betrayed uncertainty. "Without guidance, species inevitably self-destruct through war or environmental collapse." "Yet here we are," Amara replied. "Humans nearly destroyed ourselves several times, but we survived. We learned. We grew. This is why your species has been classified as a Level 1 intervention priority," Trelvox said, his voice barely audible. "The primacy already prepares the adjustment protocols." Adjustment. Amara felt a chill. Genetic and neural reconfiguration to ensure compatibility with council directives. His appendages trembled. "It is said to be painless." Amara stood abruptly. "I need to speak with my captain." "They will know I have spoken to you," Trelvox said, fear evident in his posture. Amara made a quick decision. "Then come with me. Request asylum. We can protect you." The alien skin flickered with complicated patterns. "You cannot protect yourselves from what comes. The Vruks have never failed to adjust to species in 12,000 years." Amara's hand moved to her communication device. "There's always a first time for everything, Trelvox, and if there's one thing humans excel at, it's being the exception to the rule." As she contacted the bridge, she noticed a flashing alert on her screen. The Council's main vessel had just deployed smaller craft for the Audacity's position. Whatever adjustment they planned was apparently beginning sooner than expected. Ambassador Julian Jacoby adjusted his slightly rumpled suit as the Earth delegation's shuttle approached the massive Council station. The former comedian-turned-diplomat had been hastily selected for his unorthodox problem-solving abilities after Captain Chen's urgent transmission about the adjustment protocols. Remember, he told his team of 12 specialists, "We're buying time for the fleet to mobilize. Be respectful, but not submissive. And whatever happens, don't let them separate us." The shuttle docked with a metallic thunk. Through the viewport, they could see an honor guard of various species arranged in perfect hierarchical order, tallest to shortest, with the Vrux prominently positioned at the front. "Welcome to Harmony Station," intoned the lead Vrux as they disembarked. "I am Superior Delegate Cav Morax. You will address me as Superior." Jacoby smiled warmly and extended his hand. "Pleasure to meet you, Cav. I'm Julian. This handshake is our traditional greeting. You just grasp my hand and give it a little shake." The Vrux stared at the outstretched hand with visible discomfort. "This is not protocol." "Oh, my apologies," Jacoby said cheerfully, withdrawing his hand. "We humans are still learning. Speaking of names, I notice everyone has these formal titles rather than personal identifiers. Does that get confusing at dinner parties?" A ripple of confusion passed through the assembled delegates. A smaller insectoid being near the back actually produced a sound that might have been a suppressed laugh. "You will be escorted to the presentation chamber," Cav Morax stated, ignoring the question. "The Council awaits your species' formal application for guidance." "Fantastic. We've prepared a comprehensive introduction to human culture," Jacoby replied, gesturing to his team. "Dr. Rivera here has compiled a history of Earth's 4,200 distinct languages. Professor Okonkwo has prepared a demonstration of our 300 most popular dance forms, and Chef Wu has brought ingredients for a 12-course tasting menu representing Earth's culinary diversity." The Vrux's skin pulsed with what the human team recognized as alarm patterns. "That will not be necessary. The standard species introduction is a pledge of compliance followed by acceptance of preliminary genetic screening." Jacoby's smile never faltered. "We're more of a show-don't-tell species. Trust me, you'll love Chef Wu's dim sum." The grand presentation chamber was clearly designed to intimidate. A vast amphitheater, with the new species representatives positioned at the bottom, while council members looked down from ascending rings. The acoustics amplified the voices from above, while diminishing those from below. Jacoby noted this with professional interest as he set up Earth's presentation materials, completely ignoring the designated speaking spot. "Honored representative of Earth," began the High Counselor. "You will now. Ladies, gentlemen, and distinguished beings of all configurations." Jacoby interrupted, his voice projected through Earth's portable sound system. "Before we begin formal proceedings, I believe cultural understanding must flow in both directions." He activated a holographic display showing Earth, a swirling blue marble with its 7 continents. "This is our homeworld. One planet, 195 recognized nations, 4,200 languages, and over 10,000 distinct cultural traditions." Murmurs spread through the chamber as the display zoomed in, showing Earth's diverse geography and population centers. "Impossible," stated a crystalline being from the 3rd tier. "A species cannot achieve space travel without unified planetary governance." "And yet here we are," Jacoby replied with a wink. "In fact, our greatest innovations often emerge from competition between nations." The presentation continued with images of Earth's chaotic, beautiful diversity. Buddhist temples beside skyscrapers, nomadic herders using satellite phones, ancient markets selling fusion cuisine. "This must be corrected," Cav Morax stated flatly. "Your fractured development pattern is inherently unstable." "Actually, our diversity is our greatest strength," Jacobi countered, signaling Dr. Rivera to distribute translator devices to the council members. Please place these on your communication appendages. They'll allow you to experience something remarkable. As the devices activated, the chamber filled with the sounds of human languages. Hundreds of them, overlapping in a beautiful cacophony of greetings, poetry, and songs. This, Jacobi said into the stunned silence that followed, is humanity. Not a single voice, but a chorus. From the back of the chamber, a small delegation of junior species began to applaud. A human gesture they had apparently learned just for this occasion. The Supremacy's ultimatum arrived via quantum transmission to all Earth governments simultaneously, except council guidance or face isolation from galactic society. The message concluded with technical specifications for genetic modification facilities to be constructed on Earth within 30 days. They genuinely believe we'll comply, Admiral Helena Ortega said, reviewing the demands in the Prometheus's war room. The massive research vessel had been hastily refitted with defensive capabilities after Dr. Okafor's warnings. Captain Chen nodded grimly. Their experience suggests we have no choice. Every species they've encountered has eventually submitted. Then they've never met humans, Ortega replied. She activated the command display, showing Earth's response fleet. 17 vessels of various sizes and purposes converging on the Audacity's position. Every nation with space capability contributed. Even historical adversaries have united for this. Most surprising were the 3-generation ships, massive habitats originally intended for long-term exploration of the Ta City system. They had been diverted to serve as mobile embassies, carrying thousands of civilians, scientists, artists, families, and representatives of Earth's cultures. We're not just sending military might, Chen observed. We're sending humanity itself. Precisely, Ortega confirmed. The Council expects a conventional response, either submission or aggression. We're giving them neither. 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at the designated coordinates. The Vrux had positioned a battle group of 7 sleek vessels in a clear show of force. Admiral Ortega opened communications from the Prometheus. This is Admiral Helena Ortega of Earth's United Space Initiative. We acknowledge receipt of your ultimatum and have arrived to present our response. The Vrux commander's image appeared on screen. Your species will submit to adjustment procedures or face immediate containment. Your vessels are already within our suppression field. Resistance is futile and illogical. Ortega smiled calmly. We understand your concern about our developmental pattern. That's why we've brought some people we'd like you to meet. She signaled to communications, and the feed switched to the generation ship Horizon. The image showed a concert hall where the Beijing Philharmonic Orchestra was performing Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. The camera panned across the audience. Families with children, elderly couples, people of all backgrounds joined together in appreciation of the music. The feed switched again to the New Frontier where a culinary exchange was underway. Chefs from 20 nations prepared their specialties while explaining their cultural significance to fascinated representatives from the non-Vrux Council species who had accepted human invitations. What is the meaning of this display? Demanded the Vrux commander. This is who we are, Ortega replied simply. Not a military force, not a unified collective, but individual humans living our lives. We've come to meet our neighbors. Your communication satellites have been neutralized, the Vrux stated flatly. Your psychological tactics cannot reach our allied species. Lieutenant Sayed Rahman, monitoring communications from the Audacity exchanged a knowing glance with Captain Chen. The Vrux were about to discover that their quantum jammers had a critical vulnerability. They couldn't block simple radio waves, a technology so ancient they had long ago abandoned monitoring for it. Across Council space, curious species were already receiving direct broadcasts from the human fleet. Music, art, cooking shows, and unfiltered histories of Earth's triumphs and failures alike. Admiral, A junior officer reported, "We're receiving hails from 16 separate council vessels. They're requesting private communication channels." Ortega raised an eyebrow. "It seems some of your allies have questions," she told the increasingly agitated Vrux commander. "This is sedition," the commander hissed. "The council speaks with one voice." "Perhaps it's time for a chorus instead," Ortega suggested. She nodded to her communications officer. "Accept all hails. Let's start those conversations." On the diplomatic vessel _Unity_, Ambassador Jacoby received an urgent message from an Ayari cultural attaché. "The Vrux restrict information flow between species. How do humans resist hierarchical control so effectively?" Jacoby's reply was simple. "We never developed under it. Freedom of thought isn't just our right. It's our foundation." As the human fleet established connections with curious council species, the Vrux battle group faced an unprecedented situation. Their carefully cultivated order was unraveling not through force, but through conversation. Dr. Amara Okafor had never expected to make medical history in an improvised lab aboard the Audacity with a fungal alien as her research partner. Yet here she was, verifying results that could reshape galactic politics forever. "The genetic sequence is unquestionably artificial," Trelvox confirmed, his translucent appendages trembling with emotion. "My people have carried this burden for 17 generations, believing it was our natural evolutionary limitation." On the display before them floated the three-dimensional model of the Talari genome, with the artificially introduced genetic sequence highlighted in red. This sequence systematically degraded the fungal species' spore production, requiring regular treatments from Vrux medical facilities to prevent painful cellular breakdown. "A genetic leash," Amara said quietly. "They created a dependency to ensure your compliance." Trelvox's skin pulsed with patterns of distress. "The Vrux told us this was an unfortunate evolutionary adaptation to space travel. They said without their treatments, space would be forever closed to us. And they were the only ones with the treatment." Amara nodded, understanding the cruel elegance of the system. "But they never counted on human medicine approaching the problem differently." The solution had been surprisingly straightforward. Human genetic therapies, developed to treat radiation damage among early Mars colonists, provided the framework. Rather than suppressing symptoms as the Vrux treatments did, Amara's approach targeted the artificial sequence itself, allowing the Talari cells to resume normal function. "The treatment protocol is complete," she announced, sending the data to the medical fabricator. "One injection should permanently correct the condition." Trelvox watched in silence as the fabricator produced a vial of iridescent blue liquid. "My people have dozens of research institutes," he said finally. "The brightest minds of our species. How did we never discover this?" "Because you were taught not to look," Amara replied gently. "The Vrux didn't just control your bodies. They shaped how you approach problems." Captain Chen's voice came through the intercom. "Dr. Okafor, security sensors have detected unusual activity near the southern docking port. Are you expecting visitors?" Amara and Trelvox exchanged alarmed glances. "Negative, Captain. All authorized personnel are accounted for." "Understood. Security teams are responding. Secure your research and implement protocol shelter." The lab's emergency containment system activated automatically, transparent barriers sliding into place around the sensitive equipment. Amara quickly transferred their research to the ship's secured database and encrypted the backup in her personal device. "They must have discovered our breakthrough," Trelvox whispered, his color fading with fear. "The Vrux will destroy any evidence that challenges their control." "They'll have to get through our security first," Amara replied, more confidently than she felt. The Audacity wasn't a military vessel. It carried only standard defensive measures. The ship's lighting shifted to amber, silent alert status. Through the lab's sealed doorway, they heard the distinctive sound of security teams deploying down the corridor. "What weapons do your people use?" Trelvox asked anxiously. Amara smiled mysteriously. "You'll see." From the security feed, they watched as 6 Vrux commandos in sleek infiltration suits advanced through the ship's maintenance tunnels. Their movements were precise, professional, until they encountered an unexpected defense. The human security team, led by Lieutenant Park, had deployed what appeared to be recreational equipment. As the first Vrux commando turned a corner, he was hit by a barrage of brightly colored projectiles that splattered on impact. "What is happening?" Trelvox asked, bewildered. "Paintball guns," Amara explained, trying not to laugh at the spectacle. "Non-lethal training weapons that mark targets." The Vrux commandos, clearly expecting conventional resistance, were completely unprepared for the psychological impact of being covered in neon paint, while their stealth suits' systems shorted out from the liquid interference. Their formation broke as they attempted to retreat, only to encounter more paint from another direction. "Your species defends itself with colored liquid?" Trelbox asked incredulously. "Not usually," Amara admitted. "But Captain Chen thought it would be more diplomatic than actual weapons for our first alien standoff. Plus, it makes them easier to track." Within minutes, the Vrux infiltration team had been completely routed, retreating to their shuttle covered in rainbow hues. The ship's communication system captured their humiliating withdrawal and automatically broadcast it through the frequencies the humans had discovered the Council species monitored. "You've just witnessed history," Amara told her astonished colleague. "The first time the Vrux Supremacy has failed to suppress a medical breakthrough, and my treatment for your people goes out on all channels in 30 seconds. The Council headquarters erupted in unprecedented chaos. 7 species, led by the Talari and Nayari, simultaneously announced their withdrawal during an emergency session broadcast across all official channels. The Vrux Primacy has manipulated our development for millennia," declared the Talari representative, her fungal crown fully extended in a rare display of defiance. "They engineered genetic flaws in our people that only their treatments could manage. Humans have now cured these conditions permanently." The Nayari delegate raised all 4 arms for attention. "Further evidence proves the Vrux have systematically suppressed technological advancement beyond predetermined limits. We hereby reject all developmental restrictions and form a new coalition based on mutual respect and autonomy." High Counselor Zixtoral's skin pulsed with patterns of rage. "This seditious behavior will result in immediate sanctions. All transit permissions are revoked. Return to your designated sectors or face enforcement action." A collective gasp rippled through the assembly as the Talari representative touched her control panel. "Interesting threat, Counselor. However, you may find your command codes have been adjusted." She nodded toward a small delegation of humans sitting quietly in the observer section. The humans, led by Lieutenant Raman from the _Audacity_, offered friendly waves as the Council's central control displays showed widespread system failures. The Vrux technicians frantically worked their consoles, but the damage was done. 3 centuries of exclusive control over the Galactic transit network had made them complacent about security. "Your primitive species cannot comprehend the disaster you've initiated," Zixtoral seethed. "Without proper guidance, chaos will engulf the galaxy. Technological advancement must follow predetermined patterns." Ambassador Jacobi stepped forward. "That philosophy seems rather limited, doesn't it? Where we come from, the most revolutionary breakthroughs often happen through unexpected connections and accidents. The rigid path is rarely the most innovative." "The humans speak truth," added a crystalline being representing a species known as the Mithrai. "Our historical archives, those the Vrux have not redacted, suggest our ancestors once possessed technologies beyond current Council standards. We joined the coalition. Within hours, the newly formed Galactic Coalition included 15 species, representing nearly half the Council's former membership. The human fleet extended official invitations to all coalition members to establish embassies on the generation ships, creating a temporary capital of sorts. On the _Unity_, Captain Chen watched alongside Admiral Ortega as coalition representatives explored their new headquarters with childlike wonder. Many had never seen open spaces designed for comfortable habitation rather than efficient functionality. "They're like people stepping into sunlight after a lifetime underground," Chen observed. "That's essentially what's happening," Ortega replied. "The Vrux built their empire on controlled development. Show any species genuine freedom, and their natural instinct is to embrace it." The pivotal moment came when Lieutenant Commander Torres demonstrated the Klein-Hoffman drive adaptations his engineering team had developed for coalition vessels. The modifications were surprisingly simple once humans shared their understanding of dimensional physics. "This single technology breaks the Vrux monopoly on interstellar transit," Torres explained to the assembled representatives. "Any ship with these modifications can navigate independently of Council control networks." A Mithrai engineer examined the specifications with growing excitement. "These principles apply to our crystalline propulsion systems with minimal adjustment. We could implement this within days." Similar revelations spread through each coalition delegation. Technologies humans took for granted, open information networks, decentralized manufacturing, democratic decision-making, were revolutionary concepts to species raised under Vrux guidance. "We don't want subjects," Chen told a gathering of coalition scientists. "Earth seeks neighbors, partners, and friends who determine their own paths." Her words were translated into dozens of languages and spread across formerly restricted communication channels. By the following day, 3 more Council species had declared independence, while countless others secretly established contact with human representatives. The Vrux primacy, for the first time in 12,000 years, faced a genuine challenge to their authority, not through military confrontation, but through the simple human practice of sharing knowledge freely. "They expected us to either submit or fight," Admiral Ortega noted. "They never anticipated that we would simply talk to everyone around them. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is just having an honest conversation." 1 year after Captain Maya, Chen's crew had first laughed in the faces of the Galactic Council. Representatives from 32 species gathered aboard the Harmony Station, once the Council's headquarters, now repurposed as the Coalition's central forum. The vast chamber that had once been designed to intimidate new species now featured a circular arrangement where all delegates sat at equal height. Ambassador Chen, formerly Captain Chen, stood at the center of this circle, still occasionally surprised by her transition from explorer to diplomat. She gazed around at the diverse gathering. Crystalline Mithrai glittering beside feathered avari, fungal Talari clusters near the aquatic chambers of the Melosian delegation. Earth was represented by 18 humans of different nationalities, ages, and backgrounds, a deliberate choice that still confused some coalition species. 1 year ago, Chen began. A small human vessel encountered what we thought was simply another governance body. We had no idea we were witnessing the beginning of a transformation that would reshape galactic society. The station's adaptive acoustics carried her words clearly to each species in their preferred sensory mode. The Vrux primacy built an empire on a simple premise: that development must follow predetermined patterns, that diversity must be managed, that independence must be controlled. For 12,000 years, this philosophy remained unchallenged. She smiled, remembering the conference room of the _Audacity_ until humans laughed. A ripple of various vocalizations, the coalition equivalent of appreciative chuckles, moved through the assembly. Our laughter wasn't planned resistance. It was simply human nature responding to the absurdity of being told we needed permission to be ourselves. But that spontaneous reaction revealed a truth. Genuine connection cannot exist without genuine freedom. The main doors of the chamber opened unexpectedly. A delegation of Vrux entered, not the military contingent many had feared, but a group of younger Vrux led by a familiar figure. Council member Cav Morax, Chen acknowledged, deliberately using his name rather than his former title. We weren't expecting the Vrux primacy to attend. The Vrux moved forward with less rigid posture than Chen remembered. We are not here as the primacy, Morek stated. "We represent those Vrux who wish to observe these proceedings." Chen nodded calmly, though the chamber had tensed. "You are welcome as observers. The Coalition forums are open to all who respect our basic principles of autonomy and mutual cooperation. Even former adversaries," asked a Nayari delegate skeptically. "Especially former adversaries," Chen replied. "The Coalition isn't built on uniform agreement, but on respectful dialogue across differences. We need diverse perspectives, including critical ones." She gestured to the empty section, reserved for potential new members. "Please join us. You may find our chaos more productive than expected." The Vrux delegation moved hesitantly to the offered seats. As they settled, Chen continued her address, outlining the Coalition's accomplishments: independent transit networks, free exchange of medical knowledge, cultural preservation initiatives, and the beginnings of truly collaborative research. "But our greatest achievement isn't measured in technologies or treaties," she concluded. "It's measured in the growth of each member species determining their own path forward." She indicated the observation gallery where hundreds of ordinary beings from various worlds watched the proceedings. The old council existed to manage civilization. The Coalition exists to serve it. As the Assembly moved to its first agenda item, a proposal to establish multi-species research institutes, a young Vrux delegate leaned toward a human scientist seated nearby. "I have studied your historical records," the Vrux said quietly. "Your species has experienced many conflicts and setbacks, yet you appear to maintain optimism. How is this possible?" The scientist considered the question. "We've learned that failure is often the first step toward breakthrough. Every mistake teaches something valuable." Such thinking would be considered dangerous in traditional Vrux education. The delegate responded. "Perhaps that's exactly why some of you are here today," the scientist suggested with a smile. The Vrux's skin pattern shifted subtly, and then a sound emerged that no human had ever heard from their species before, a small, tentative chuckle. From her position at the center of the assembly, Chen noticed the exchange. As the quiet laughter spread among the younger Vrux, she remembered that first moment aboard the _Audacity_ when human laughter had confronted galactic control, and won. The revolution had come full circle.